think we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for joining us. Today is Tuesday, June 16th, and this is the Human Rights Commission monthly meeting. So we're calling into order at 6:34. I want to start with public participation. If anybody has anything to say, please, first, if you could unblock your video, and also please clearly state your name, and we'd be happy to hear from you.
Is that just me?
So far you're the first, so go right ahead, Sue.
Okay, so I'm Sue Hers. I don't have something to say. I just thought I'm interested in what's cooking, so I just wanted to watch. And frankly, I thought it was starting at 7, so I didn't have so I'm like gulping dinner down, so that's why I have the video off. Okay,
that's totally fine. You don't have to keep it on the whole time. I just wanted people when they were speaking to have the video on, but please go right ahead and enjoy your dinner. That's fine.
Okay. So thank you. This is an amazing way to participate in a meeting.
Great. Great. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Is there any other member of the public who would like to say anything? Okay. So moving on, we have minutes from 2 of our prior meetings, the May 21st one from last month and the June 8th one from last week. So I wanted to see if everyone had an opportunity to look those over, if anybody had any edits or corrections that they wanted to make.
And I wanted to say, Sherry, Jen had emailed me to point out that I had misspelled your name on the meeting notes from the 16th. So
I'm used to that.
So I have corrected them. So the version that I'll send in, the whatever they are, ratified minutes or whatever, will have the correct spelling.
Okay, thank you.
I think the only thing that I would,
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't realize you had a comment. I was going to say, if nobody has any edits, I'll make a motion, but go ahead.
No, the only thing that I wanted to just point out is on the May 19th, the minutes of May 19th under policies and procedures and elections, we did, I know our policies and procedures say that we do the elections in May and we mistakenly held them in April. That doesn't mean that they're not legitimate. So in here we have that they're not technically legitimate. They are still legitimate. We just did them in the wrong month. So if we want to make that change, I think that would be good. But that was the only edit that I had.
I think there was one other one, which is super minor, and I wasn't going to call it up because it was just the Cultural Council grant. I think council is spelled COUNCIL versus SEL.
Oh, you're right.
Which
I think that was in the May 19th minutes.
Okay.
It was talking about the cultural grant for Pride Month.
Yeah.
The council in that sense was a CIL spelling.
Okay. Thanks.
Super minor.
Yeah.
I apologize for not reading them more carefully. I usually pick up on those things too.
Okay. All right, so if nobody has any other edits, do I have a motion to approve? Actually, let's do them one at a time. Motion to approve the May minutes.
I make a motion to approve the May minutes.
Okay, and a second?
I second the motion. Do we need to say as amended or something like that?
Yes, as amended, thank you. All right, so I need to change my view so I can actually see the grid so I can make sure I call on everybody. Okay, Benny?
Yes.
All right, Jen?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Okay, and we are missing Amy. So, and for myself, I also say yes. And now for the June minutes, do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the June minutes.
All right, and a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, Benny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
And yes, that's everyone. Okay, and yes for myself as well. So, all right. So the motion passes to approve those minutes. All right, the next item on the agenda is following up on the community anti-racism actions. And given that we had a meeting around this just last week, I know that there's probably not been a lot of movement on it just yet, but I did want to check in. One thing that had come up in the conversation last week was a request around Black-owned businesses, if we could compile a list, and I did come across one actually. I will, it was in the materials that I sent out. There was a lot of materials that I sent out for this meeting, but it was in that list. And what I wanted to see is if people had thoughts in terms of, as we collect these resources, where we want to keep them. I know we had talked about, as things continue to reopen, I would love to reach out to the library to see if we could have possibly a small permanent space to post and to list all sorts of anti-racism resources. But I'm wondering if we want to try and do that either on our Facebook page, or if people had thoughts in terms of where we could have a repository for that. So if people were curious about where to find those resources, where they could go.
I have a question about the Facebook page. Does it receive a lot of traffic?
It depends on what's going on. I think, I don't know. I mean, we can certainly increase our visibility if we wanted to, but I know, there's a question in terms of other boards in town don't really have a social media presence. And so I think it does lend itself to a larger conversation of how big a social media presence do we want to have?
Just checking, we do have 770 likes on our page. That doesn't tell us traffic, but that tells us.
Right. And is that, what time span is that?
That's how many people like the page or follow.
Okay. Or like followers. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I asked is because last week, several of the people who joined our meeting indicated that they tend to get all of their information on social media. So, I don't personally pay much attention to Facebook, but since a lot of people do, and if that's our targeted audience, perhaps we should post these resources on Facebook, just links to resources.
Yep.
But I would put it on our homepage, on our website page too. I think it's worthwhile to have a section that is, I know that all of my business clients have resources on their web pages, so people can choose the kinds of things they might be interested in.
Maria, can I just add, I love that's, I wasn't at last week's meeting, but I heard there were some great ideas, and it sounds like resources would be great. I think talking to the library is great. Yes. Once they're reopened and having a section there of information. I actually had heard from a couple of folks about, is there a list of Black-owned businesses on the North Shore or in our area or throughout the state? And I know like Boston, has a plethora of restaurants, a plethora being, I think there are 18 on the list. But I wonder if that's something to collaborate with the chamber on, is what I've been telling folks, is that I think it's a really great ask. And I know John and Marie at the chamber are just such great partners, and like using, the Wakefield chamber to help do that might be a great avenue. Because then you're not endorsing anyone. You're just kind of saying like, here's a list of, and actually, every March doing a woman's own business list would be great too. And I know a couple of years ago, we kind of took pictures. One of the commissioners had taken pictures of women-owned businesses in town. And so you guys have that, but yeah, that would be my suggestion. And as the town, as we start reopening, it's something that, you could ask the town to kind of provide information about as well.
And because there aren't, I would assume, aren't many, if any, minority-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses in Wakefield, the North Shore Chamber is a very robust chamber that has a lot of members even from Wakefield. I know from the days when I was a member there. So that is another group that I think would be worthwhile, because I'm pretty confident they would be able to give you a list, since they're fully staffed and they have very robust communications and lots of programs and meetings.
So
That was
Maria, you said that
suggested.
you had a list, is that right?
I came across a list. It was shared by whatever the equivalent of, I think, Belmont's Human Rights Commission. I don't know if it's a nonprofit or a commission, but I do have a list from them. Yeah.
Is it the supportblackowned.com, like that website, or is it outside of that?
I think it's that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there are more that aren't included in that site. I don't know if that site.
Yeah, it certainly is. I don't know that it was comprehensive, but if we could kind of combine that list and also reach out to the local Chamber of Commerce and also the North Shore Chamber of Commerce, we could put together, I think, a pretty substantial list.
So do we need to have an action item and assign that to somebody to work on, or?
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Well, since I don't seem to have a particular project to work on, I don't know the individuals at the Wakefield Chamber, but I'm sure I can find out about them, and I'll also contact the North Shore Chamber for you, and I'll compile lists from those two places, and I'll see what a Google search comes up with as well.
Okay. Yep. And if you need me to resend the materials that include the list that I had sent out a couple days ago, just let me know and I can resend it to you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And beyond that one, that particular list item, in terms of what I'm hoping that the commission can do is certainly reach out. I would love to do a follow-up with the 3 student leaders of the rally from a week ago Sunday, and talk with them in terms of what their experiences have been, both in school and in Wakefield, and see how we can partner with them or work with them to work on some of the issues that were highlighted both in the rally and some of their conversations that have been had around what's going on in the schools, and making sure the students of every student in Wakefield is feeling welcome and feeling like they're a part of their schools. So I would definitely have plans to reach out to those 3 students as well as to the METCO program to talk with them about that.
Is one of those students potentially a student representative to the commission?
That was one of my thoughts, is I was going to see if I believe one of them just graduated, but I don't think that the other 2 of the 3, I don't think that they were seniors. So I would love to reach out to them and see if they would be interested. I don't know if I need to check with Doug Lyons to see if that invitation needs to come from the schools as opposed to from us. So, but yeah, I do plan to reach out to him to see and to talk with the others to see if that would be something that they'd be interested in doing, because we would love to have them.
I don't know if this should happen when we're talking about our vacant positions, but I had Pina had contacted me to be like the point person for the students who are applying. There's 2 students, I think, who are in the process already of applying for the student position here on the commission.
Okay.
So I haven't heard back after, like, she forwarded me this chain of emails between her and Principal McLeod, and an email from one of the student applicants. But then I didn't hear anything after that. So I'm assuming I should reach back out to kind of like see what this, like, I don't know if it sounds to me like Principal McLeod and or Doug Lyons appoint whoever the person is. Okay. And they had kind of been in contact with us to understand what the responsibilities are, what the, like what the commitment is. But they do the actual appointment. And so I don't know if they're like in the process of doing that already or what's really going on. So I'm happy to reach back out both to kind of get a status update on what's happening with that, but also do you want me to kind of ping the idea of like seeing if any of the students who are involved in organizing the rally is interested?
Well, I mean, I didn't realize the process had already started for those other students. And I obviously don't want to put anyone in front of someone else in line that's had already started the process. So if you want to check in with Doug and Amy and maybe CC me on the conversation, just so we make sure that we're following the proper procedures. Yeah, that would be great. And yeah, so I mean, I'm wondering if more than one student is really interested, if we have an option of having an additional seat. So yeah, let's keep talking about that and see what Doug and Amy say first, and then we'll go from there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
So I have one about our last meeting, following up from some of the suggestions, and one was the sort of Wakefield 102 or 201. Right. I fixed that up. So Maureen wasn't on that call, so I don't know if we should throw that back out, or how might we go about proposing that, or do we want to even propose that, I guess. But I think we were all kind of like excited about the idea that came out of that meeting.
Idea. And I also,
did you see it in the minutes?
I'd love to hear what the idea was. And also, full disclosures, I'm doing what Sue did and eating my dinner at the same time. That's why I'm going to the screensaver. Yeah. You don't need to see me eat. What was the idea for Wakefield 201?
So an idea, well, I can
go ahead, Jen.
I'll try to paraphrase what I remember because I don't have the minutes in front of me. But so somebody suggested, actually it might have been Deputy Chief Calabrese suggested, we have the Wakefield 101 for new residents, which is great, but then we have all these people, and a lot of people who fell through the cracks who, were not new or, are no longer new, but would be interested in like meeting other residents and just having that sort of like, networking option, especially if it's sort of hosted by the Human Rights Commission or we're part of it, or invite them in. Because I think some of the comments that we heard was that, people need to feel invited and not just say like, hey, there's this stuff in town. First of all, how do they find out about it? And two, is that really for them? Or, how do they think about that? So there was some different ideas being thrown around, but one of them was like, wouldn't it be cool to do a Wakefield sort of 201 for existing residents to meet with different departments like the police department or town councilors or other groups that the town has, and provide some opportunity for just meeting each other and having that dialogue and conversation. So
I want to point out specifically that this came up in the context, right? We were having a meeting about sort of anti-racism action that can happen in town. And one thing that that came up from Teray was the idea that there's so few folks of color in town, and particularly so few Black folks. And he was saying he's like, we don't even necessarily know who each other is. Like there's just not a lot of opportunities or spaces to feel welcomed in and feel like you're really building connections. And so it was in that context, general, like both for residents in general, but I think thinking specifically from an anti-racism standpoint, like what can we do to make Wakefield a meaningfully inclusive and welcoming place, particularly to our neighbors of color, was like the root of that conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
And several people, including myself and several other white people, talked about how hard it was really to break into this community, that you had to be extremely proactive. It wasn't easy. Even if you had kids or you were involved with a church, it just was not easy to break in and find your place among the others in this community, whether you were white or not.
Yeah, those are all valid points and things I've heard before. I'm really proud of Wakefield 101. You guys, the HRC has gotten tables. It's been a great partnership kind of with the chamber and the library and the nonprofits and then all the departments. And it's grown every year. And I actually May. We would have had it in May. And so, you know, it's been postponed. Every year when we do it, people kind of ask for something for people that have been here longer than, you know, 6 months or whatever the timeline is. I think we should, as we start reopening, I can bring that up to the council and think about it. I do think we don't always have those great opportunities, especially if you don't have kids in the school system, of how do you meet people. But I will say, I think our library is kind of serves a big part of that. You know, whether you have kids or you don't have kids, everyone, it's kind of the center of our town.
Yes.
In a lot of ways. And so maybe we can, and I know, like, I was on the library's 5-year strategic plan. And so, you know, they are thinking about ways of being like everything that Benny was just saying about being a welcoming, you know, I think it'd be an interesting partnership. So I can have some conversations about that. You know, I actually think this year it's more important than ever, because I think about all the events where we normally gather and we're not having that. So there's no, you know, Festival by the Lake. There's no 4th of July event. Like I said, there was no Wakefield 101 this year. So a lot of the normal events where groups could have a table and kind of talk about themselves aren't happening. And so maybe it's an opportunity of thinking in the fall of doing something. So is Jen making the task list? I'm happy to kind of think that out some more and bring it up to the council and see if it's something we could do.
Benny, you're doing that, right? Because I'm not.
Oh,
I'm going to take it, right?
I didn't. I heard you saying.
No, I know.
Yeah, Benny takes the minutes.
I'm thinking too about, so there was like a bunch of ideas generated in that meeting last time, and I'm like, what's the best way for us to, I don't know, prioritize those or sift through them and think about what we want to do?
Especially when we're down so many people on.
Yeah, it's certainly more than we can do.
Yeah.
We can't do everything, right? So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, how do we think about that?
So yeah, I'm wondering if I mean, given our small size right now, if it makes sense to focus on maybe 2 or 3 of the ones that we were most excited about at last week's meeting. Certainly the Wakefield 201 was, that was a big, that generated a lot of excitement. And then also the, oh God, I lost my train of thought. I'm just looking back at the notes from last week.
There was also a lot of ideas to work with the library again, and things that we've kind of already done, but can we do again, or can we do, you know, another iteration? So maybe not The Hate U Give, but maybe we do a different, you know, partner with a different book discussion or movie screening or something else. So that was, not that would, you know, I don't know that one generated a ton of excitement, to your point, but I think that's something that we've already done before and kind of have some inroads there that we could focus on.
There was also a lot of interest about the conversations about whiteness. Sue, you'll be happy to hear that. That people thought that it sounded, they said, yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that. So there was a lot of interest in that happening again in the future when we can meet.
Another one that I loved the idea of is one of the participants was talking about not having people come to the information, but having the information go to them. Where an example that he used is if you're sitting in Cravings and there's a flyer up that says, I'm trying to think of how he phrased it. It was,
You talked about it almost like product placement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
critical.
messaging about anti-racism and white privilege and just things to inform people and have them think.
right. And it was just like one piece of information. Like, think about if you're walking into a store, the color of your skin, if someone is looking at you in a certain way because of the color of your skin. And so it's not a long thing to read, but it's one thought to like put into people's minds for them to mull over, so that I love the creativity around that. And I think it was, I would love to look more into that, about where we could place pieces of information like that, or kind of where we could go for pieces of information around that. It was a great suggestion.
Yeah.
You know, as you're saying that, I was
Micro-interaction.
thinking if we could, and this takes more than a meeting like this, and perhaps some volunteers from the group, some of the people that met with us on last Monday, brainstorm a whole list of messages that we could distribute to the shop owners and the restaurants in town, and on a rotating basis, you know, email it to them and say, here's the message of this particular month or this particular week. Could you just post this as people enter? And have it all over town, and that one message that is seen everywhere. But we need to brainstorm what those messages would be.
Right.
I think that this would also, I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer, but I do think that it would require some like pretty deep rooted outreach to the business owners.
Oh yeah.
To put up messaging in their businesses that like push people, because there's so much white fragility, there's so much defensiveness that comes up, that I could see a business owner not wanting to do it because they don't want it to negatively impact their business. You know, they don't want people coming in and being like, what's this shit over here? You know, like, so, you know, not every business owner, I think, might be on board to have like anti-white supremacy conversations with their patrons, you know? So I just wonder about how to do that in a way that's going to be like executable if we're asking business owners to put it in their places. And
Well, I think we could work with the chamber on that possible concept, because they have the pulse of the business community, and see if they think that the people, if they could start a conversation in the chamber and get back to us about whether they think that that's something that people would be interested in doing at all.
Yeah. Maybe I'm thinking of it too micro, or maybe I also misunderstood what he was saying, but I guess I wasn't thinking about it necessarily being so strong of like I mean, it'd be great if it could be. It's a huge answer. But I was thinking like, what if it's things like practice kindness, or, you know, a little more innocuous than that sort of thing. But maybe that's not what he was talking about at all. So I don't know.
yeah, there's a line you have to walk, I think, or a decision that you have to make around like, are we talking about anti-racism messaging?
Right.
Because practice kindness, I don't think is anti-racism messaging.
No, and that's why I was thinking when he was just saying like, oh, you know, if we're trying to make, and maybe this was in the context of if we're trying to make Wakefield more welcoming to people, like, wouldn't it be great if we had these like subliminal messages all over town, right? But that's less to do with anti-racism and more to do with just welcoming in general, whatever that means. So again, I think we must have misinterpreted that one, or not misinterpreted, but had a different perspective on what that meant.
I think it was a broader messaging. It wasn't just all anti-racism, because they were talking about having just people think about the fact that they're part of a community.
Yeah, but now that I'm reading back through the minutes, you know, he said instead of getting people to go to an event or program, so if we had a book club meeting, you know, a book on anti-racism or whatever that topic is, or if we have, you know, MLK Day, or if we have International Women's Day, whatever our messaging is, it's like, could you put that in the spaces to people, and so they don't have to say, oh, I can't come to this 2-hour thing, but like, let me absorb that in my everyday interactions, right?
Okay. So does it make sense to try and focus on these 3 or 4 things for now, and then as we increase, once we get we get the vacancies filled, that we can see about branching out and investigating some of the other ideas that were suggested at last week's meeting?
I agree with the idea of doing only a few, and I'm just wondering, like, how do we make, because we haven't talked about, there's like 10 other ideas, you know, like how do we, I don't think that we should well, I don't know that we should talk about all of them again because we talked about all of them for an entire meeting last time.
Right.
But I'm just wondering, like, how did we pick these 3 ideas? Is it just the top 3 that were on people's minds, or?
Yeah, I think for this, I think in this conversation is probably what came to mind. But if we want to have a little bit of a more considered process, then what we could do is between now and next month's meeting, everyone take a look at the notes and see the ideas that you see that we could take some action on, or that seems I mean, I don't know if we want to say everyone pick your top three ideas, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I mean, given that it was only a week since our last meeting, I'm guessing people didn't have a chance to give this a whole lot of thought, or in terms of how we can move on them.
Would you like each of us to, on a scale rating season, just take the list and then we can come up with whichever one's got the highest ratings, like on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, or something like that, and try to come up with some kind of weighted system of consensus?
Yeah, we could do it like that. I'm just looking over the notes.
Can I also just make a suggestion? Because I'm hearing that you guys, and I wholeheartedly agree, that kind of anti-racism and talking about systematic and institutional racism is kind of your theme for like starting. And it's not just going to be a month, it's going to be, multiple events and conversations. And I think what you guys do as a commission really well in the last 4 years that I've seen you work is you guys are great with themes, and Pride is a perfect example, but of just kind of do it in Women's History Month of doing like multiple events. And so there's definitely agreement. And after everything that's happened, like this is kind of your theme, but you're not going to do it all over the summer. Right. I mean, frankly, it's really not starting till the fall, which I think is a nice way of like, we'll hopefully be back to some level of normalcy in the fall. But I think that your most success, what we've kind of been tiptoeing, is like these partnerships. And so I almost feel like the next step before you decide what the initial things are is to talk to someone at the library. Like I'm your town counselor liaison. But there's no one from school committee, and I'm hoping the schools, Doug and somebody, has a plan to kind of do some stuff. And that would be a great, like, we want to elevate what everyone's doing and not like, obviously like push conversation forward, and there's some great ideas, but I almost feel like I want you guys to have those conversations and then kind of narrow down the list, because like if the library is planning to do a book club or planning to do something, I don't want you guys, like I want it to be coordinated, and I'm kind of actually looking to you to kind of take that lead on that coordination. Sorry, the caffeine has not kicked in yet. But does that make sense? So like, because I feel like if you start prioritizing now, you're shutting out kind of the dialogue that could happen and other people who want to like weigh in. And so, I know normally we all take off over the summer too, but I think like keep this an agenda item, and maybe some of the deliverables are people talk to some of those other groups, talk to Doug and see, and the I'm sure the MECO coordinator is probably thinking about this and what can be done. And I don't know if I'm guessing that the statewide Human Rights Commission, Maria, the one that has like meetings every so often, like they probably have some good ideas. And so like, I almost feel like if you think about partnering and then kind of plan out like months worth of activities, that just might be a better way than like saying like, this is what we're doing right now.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
I love it, Maureen. I love it.
Urgent, just based on timing, and is Juneteenth, which is this Friday. So I mean, not that we're planning an event for that, but I would hope that we could maybe find something to share out like on our social media about Juneteenth, and just more informative.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. And yeah, I think we should do that. All right. So in terms of having those conversations and the dialogues, does anyone want to reach out to the library? And if not, I'm happy to do it.
I'm so involved with the library, which was my connection to the town to begin with.
Okay.
I know. I'm bereft not being. I'm now June 18th. We can send back all our materials, and maybe soon we can see.
No, I saw that.
Yeah. But I'm in touch with one of the librarians all the time, Karen Stern.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So, and I also am in touch with Catherine. So if you want, I can talk to Catherine and see what they might have planned, and if there's something they might like to do in concert with us.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you'd like me to find out? With
that
the
would
library?
Be great.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's easy. That's light lifting. I can definitely do that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and I am happy to reach out to, like I said earlier, I will reach out to the METCO program, and I can reach out to Doug Lyons and see in terms of if the schools, what they're thinking right now in terms of plans. I mean, I know they're going into summer and it's been an exhausting past few months, so I might give them a break for a couple weeks before I'm like, okay, so let's talk about the fall. But I'm happy to reach out to them and see what, have a dialogue around that.
Yeah, because that was one of the big things that came up in our meeting last Monday was like finding out more about the curriculum on race and racism, and also like how to talk to your kids about racism, like different things that I think can like dovetail with the schools.
Mm-hmm.
So we're thinking about the schools, the library,
the town council.
Yep, town council. Are there other bodies? We had talked about the chamber. Should we still reach out to the chamber, or would we want to reach out to them only if we had kind of a specific like thing in mind that we wanted to do?
Well, I'm going to find out about Black-owned businesses from them.
Right, but in terms of like
programming.
Yeah, where else in town might there be programming happening? The churches?
Yeah, I saw in the paper that the UU church is having like a standout Tuesdays every Tuesday for racial justice.
I drove by and there were about 15 people holding signs.
Wow.
So I know you guys are down a clergy member, but I actually think if the clergy association is still a thing. The fact that 15 citizens of our town are holding signs on a Tuesday from 5:30 to 6:30 was pretty impressive. I was running late. I was going to go join them, but I just beeped instead, which scared them all. So I realized, I was like, I don't know how you say it's a friendly beep. So I was like, beep, 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 beep. But to have 15 people outside was pretty impressive. So I don't know if there's someone at that church, but maybe you just talk to the clergy association and kind of, because I do think a lot of, I think that's most people of faith are kind of having this conversation right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to add this, and I know you guys know this. I think I hear the summer off. I think what we have an opportunity to do is have this conversation beyond the month of February. And I think that's, to me,
Black History Month.
Yeah, like just, it's not 1 month. And I think if we kind of think about like, this is a theme for a year and we're starting in September because academic year, renewal, all of that. But I think even having these conversations, and so I think it's a conversation just to ask the chamber, like I know everyone in every position, every board I think I sit on, we are having the conversations about what we are doing differently, even if it's conversations. Jen just mentioned I work at a nonprofit and we got Juneteenth off this Friday. They just voted on it yesterday and we're getting it off going forward. Like it's an official holiday where we work. And that to me is amazing. But I don't want it just to be a day that we sleep in. It's how do we observe it in a way that's meaningful? So I actually, as you're looking for materials, the Museum of Fine Arts has a whole day of programming to celebrate Juneteenth that has like things for kids and things for like showing movies, like, and so they're doing a whole day of programming. I just saw that on Facebook, they're sending us a list of things to read and things, and so I'll forward that on as well. But yeah, so I think asking the chamber, asking the clergy, asking the schools, you know, I think Doug Lyons is good. I think you asked the school committee as well, if somebody can have that conversation. Who else is in our town? I don't know.
Right. Well, I think it's a good start. And I think, you know, if other people, if you think of other groups that we could reach out to, that we could talk to, please feel free to initiate those conversations and report back next month if everyone's okay with that.
So is anyone able to do the, what was it? Oh, the clergy, what's it called? The Clergy Association?
I'm going to reach out to the Clergy Association anyway, because we have a vacancy to fill.
Right.
So I can talk to them, and when I call them about the vacancy, I can also talk with them about any conversations that they're having around anti-racism actions and what they're doing, and if we can partner or be part of that dialogue. So I'm happy to do that.
So then do we need somebody to reach out to the school committee? It sounds like, Maria, you've already got Doug, Metco, and clergy. I don't want to make you do everything. I can reach out to Amy Purcell, I guess, and ask her. I don't know I don't know. I don't want to make assumptions what the school committee is doing. I mean, she might just refer us back to Doug, but
yeah, if you don't mind reaching out to her, that would be
Can
great.
I ask an ignorant question? What does the school committee do? Like, I don't think I know what that body is about. Does anybody know?
Sorry, I just deferred to you as the town official.
Yeah, so I believe, no, that's a good question. I mean, I think their role is, they set, they're kind of like what the town council is for the town, according to, except they are regulated by the state, but they set policies for the schools, and then they choose the superintendent, and the superintendent is the day-to-day manager, but they do the policy sort of stuff. So, you know, it's schools, so they're not setting curriculum, but they're setting, you know,
Holidays?
policies. I mean, yeah, that's a good question. Maybe we should ask them about how it, but I've always been told that they kind of do policies and whatever that means, but it's not curriculum based. And they, at the end of the day, are the ones who, the superintendent, but they don't, you know, and he does the day to day. So they're not getting involved in what's happening in the classroom, but kind of overall of graduation and things like that.
Snow days?
Big part of their.
I don't think they decide snow days. I think that's the superintendent.
yeah, but they did a lot on didn't they do a lot on the teachers' contracts, and they do budgets and all that kind of stuff?
Yep, they do budgeting. Yeah, which is policy making. Yeah.
Aside from this stuff right now, maybe it would be nice to invite Amy to our meeting at some point and just like talk to us about the school committee and how we can, I don't know, just like build a little bit more of a partnership there.
Yeah, that was one of I don't remember who brought that up in the meeting that we had on Monday, but they were talking about, I think it was a woman who was on the call who's on, works with a different school district, but said that their Human Rights Commission in their town has different liaisons into each of their schools. And obviously, we don't have enough people to do that right now. But I thought that was a really neat concept to kind of keep that connection going and kind of get embedded more in the schools.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, so do we have a clear plan in terms of who's having conversations with which group?
I'm doing library
Yep.
And Chamber of Commerce, right?
and chamber.
Yeah.
Within the conversations of Black-owned business, I'll bring it up with them as well. I'll see if they have anything planned.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so going to our next item on our agenda, the Pride Month transition of activities. I know Isabel had planned to join the meeting, and she's not here yet, but I think we can still talk about in terms of going forward for the rest of the month. The schedule was that the subcommittee was going to post things on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we took last week. We just needed to take a break for a week. So I wanted to see what people thought about first of all, continuing to post anything to do with Pride. And second of all, do we want to stick with that schedule and we might need to make some amendments here and there, but do we want to continue with that? What are people's thoughts?
How dependent is the schedule upon the people who have recently resigned?
Only partially. I know that I believe 2 of the subcommittee members were supposed to do video clips, so we can make those changes as we need. But I think the rest of it was all people outside the HRC and the subcommittee who were planning to contribute in some way.
I mean, my vote is I definitely think we should continue. I don't think we should just drop off with our Pride programming. I think the question is more, how do we get their schedule from them to figure out what we can post sooner than later. I know we have one person who was supposed to submit something and she held off, so I could follow back up with her on where she's at with that. And then I think we do have one reading of the book that was supposed to go up on Monday, which we sort of held back. So, but otherwise, I don't know what the rest of the plans were.
Okay. Sue, did you want to say something?
Can I? Was that what was my time at the beginning, or I can now?
We'll let you.
Okay. Have people thought about putting up a flag? I wasn't actually going to say anything. I was just curious what your meeting is like. But as a lesbian, I have to say, who's lived here for a couple decades, it would just be wonderful to have a rainbow flag in town. It would just feel so welcoming and affirming. I don't know if that's something you've talked about or.
Yeah.
Dude, there is a flag up.
Yeah, there is a flag. And there's one in front of my house too,
Yep.
But the town has a flag? That's great, Sherry. But the
by
town
AmeriCal
It's at the Civic Center.
Civic Center.
a full-size
next-
flag, and I've just like driven by it and not noticed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
Awesome.
actually, Sue, it's actually our second year. So the Human Rights Commission worked really hard. And we had it the whole month of June last year. And then we were able to do it this year. It was actually the former police chief. He really took the lead on it. But the HRC, we had a huge event last year. And this year we had a socially distanced appropriate event, much smaller because we were in the time of the pandemic. But if you drive, you don't even notice it, but it's in the center of our town. And we were one of the first towns in our area to do it. So you'll have to go take a picture when when the breeze is nice, but it looks beautiful. Just drove by it. It's up there.
Have all
So
the
to
other
be a
flags,
bigger, could there be one where it's more visible? I mean, I didn't know that, but I mean, would it be possible if it is hard to see? And I've been looking for it, but I look,
Town hall.
between not Town Hall, on Main Street. Opposite the library, not the library, the post
Like
office.
the Rockery.
the Rockery.
Yeah, the Rockery. That's where I expect to see the town posting something. That's where I look. That's where there's a menorah.
Oh, on the common or something.
Number, yeah. But at that rock area, just that triangle seems to mark the center. Is that a possibility, or is that just being? Since I have looked for it and I haven't seen it, or
Right.
if that could be something to think about for you guys to think about in the future, I just throw it out there.
definitely something to think about in the future. Right now, on that triangle of land that you're talking about, there's not a flagpole there. If you're talking about where the hiker is, there's,
Yeah.
don't believe there's a flagpole further down on the common, but in terms of that, the triangle right there where the
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly where, so maybe then but in that general area, the south side of the lake, that general area.
What happened to all the rest of the flags?
But that's great. It's happening. Okay, so I'll shut up.
Yeah.
No,
That's all right. The majority, Gwen, I believe, has some flags.
Yeah, I only have about 15 left.
Yeah.
But I think I was only given 40.
Yeah, because I haven't seen them around town. I mean, driving or walking around the neighborhoods on the west
it's been
side.
tough, I think, to distribute them. Like Chi-Chi gave me a bundle, but I really don't know anybody in town. I'm like not very well connected, so I still have my bundle. Like I don't know what to do to distribute them really.
Mm. Yeah, I offered them
was
to
a
people
mistake.
in the Books by the Lake group, and 2 people took me up on the offer, and a third person who I don't even know how he got into our email system, our listserv, asked for one, and he hasn't gotten back to me with his address because I said I would drop it off because I have one sitting around the house, but I do have one hanging right at my front entrance, except I live on a cul-de-sac, a dead end. Not many people see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
I mean, would people want to post on our Facebook page that we have flags available, and we could either drop them off or we could see if there's a central place where people could go and pick some up. I have to reach out to Chi-Chi and get the rest of the flags. She definitely has the bulk of them,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to get them from her.
Yeah.
But in terms of having either a central place where people could go and pick them up or having a drop off, I don't know what.
yeah, I mean, I just know a little bit about their conversation that they had, and I think they were trying to coordinate like staffing a table for a couple hours to say come pick them up at this time, and I don't think that ever really got off the ground. And then so I think there was a plan to try to do distribution, but then so now none of us know what that plan was, or how we're gonna do it. So now we need to think of our own. I don't know if now that town hall is reopened for partial hours, but it's by appointment only. So I don't know if we could drop some flags off there, because I don't think people should make an appointment to go pick up a free flag, but maybe we could put them in a bucket outside of town hall or something. But I think the concern, at least that I heard during one of their meetings, was that they didn't want to just put out a bunch because somebody could just go grab 20 or whatever. So they wanted to kind of have it staffed, or at least somebody could take 2 if they want to put 2 out or something. But rather than just have it be a free for all, come grab whatever you want, have it be managed somehow.
I'm willing to drop them off at people's houses if we have addresses.
These aren't full-size flags, are they? Like what you
No,
put
they're
in?
like lawn flags. They're about, I don't know, like 2 feet by 1 foot or something like that.
Oh,
We bought 300, and we were, offered to distribute them or, give them to folks in the community for Pride Month.
And it's the Philadelphia version with
Oh, there you go. There's Maria has it.
oh,
that's sizable.
yeah, it's nice. It's a
That's
nice flag.
nice. That's nice.
This is more like stick it in your garden or something. It's not really a.
Actually, you have to do it horizontally, otherwise it just flops down. You can't see it. I have it hanging right.
It doesn't have a point. It has a flat bottom, so it doesn't have a nice point
Yeah.
to go into.
Yeah.
Great. Great.
So Sue, I mean, I have some. If you want to, we can arrange for you to get one for your lawn if you would like.
You just want
Tell
me
your
to
neighbors.
back
Tell your
your
neighbors.
machine that I borrowed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So with that said, do we want to?
How about Tuesdays in front of Unitarian Church? Could we, consider? I know we missed the tonight, because people will come by and people will still walk around downtown.
That's a good idea because they're out there anyway.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea. Do you want, I'm happy to reach out to them.
That would be.
Wants me to do that. Yep.
Just the month is moving. It's the 16th already.
Yeah.
We're going to have flags for next year left over.
Yeah. Which,
So we'll have to, So once we decide that, we'll have to post or email, Again, if people aren't on Facebook, they might not see it. So it's, how do we get the word out? Like that there are flags available for people.
Right.
Did we put anything in the newspaper about this?
It was in the paper. I think when they submitted their initial press release about the planned events, I thought it said that there would be flags available and to contact the WHRC email to request one. But I don't think we got a whole lot of emails. Maria, did you figure out are you getting the emails now?
No, I'm still working that process out. So, yeah.
So maybe there's a bunch of requests in there. I don't know.
Because if it was in the whole article about all the events, it might have been the kind of thing where people didn't notice it. So it might be worth it just to put a very brief thing in the paper again, just saying we have pride flags available to anyone from Wakefield who would like to display one. And, send an email to you said the email doesn't work for the HRC?
It does work. It's being forwarded. We need to figure out who it's now going to be forwarded to. So yeah.
Okay.
But that should be a pretty easy process to work out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we should put it in the paper again, just something very brief, very specific.
Yeah, and if we work out with the UU or whatever, it's either email us or stop by the UU between these hours and pick one up. Like
Amy, will a lot of people come by the police station? Would that be a place where people might pick things up? Or is that not appropriate for the police station?
We're still discouraging people from coming into the lobby unless they have to report something. We were doing a lot over the phone, so we're still discouraging it.
Okay.
So they probably wouldn't want it to be a central pickup spot and increase the traffic.
Okay.
But could it be out like side on that patio area or something like that?
Yeah, I could ask a supervisor. I don't see an issue with it. I would just have to ask someone if they wouldn't mind it being left out there. Again, you run the risk of someone,
right,
a whole bunch, who's
in front of the police station now. I don't know.
You never know.
You never know. You're right.
But yeah, maybe the cameras would be a deterrent. So I can't ask. I will ask, and that's not a problem. And Maria, I'm forwarding you a email.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
I also just one other suggestion. I don't think you have a ton left because people are asking me who to go to get them. So word was out in a good way. But our town meeting is next Saturday, and so people are going into the gym. And so if some of you guys wanted to pass them out there, if people want them, then you at least would get rid of whatever you have. Just an idea. And you might, I don't know. I feel like I'm making work for folks, but also like the 20th, the farmer's market opens, and maybe talk to the farmer's market manager if they'd like a couple just to put around, because it's, it is Pride Month and we have them. So Anne might like to have them at the farmer's market.
So that's this weekend.
Would they allow us to distribute
this weekend
market if we were just standing quietly in a corner with a bucket of flags?
I don't even know if we could be there.
No.
Right, because we don't have the nonprofit table anymore. But I think what you're saying is just ask if at the market tent they would be willing to put them out on our behalf.
might be worth asking. Yeah.
So I guess the question is that, sorry, what was the date? So the 26th is the farmer's market?
No, the 20th. They both start this
weekend. Okay. So we would then have to decide how many do we send potentially to town meeting versus the farmer's market. And do we advertise both? So to Sherry's point, if we put it in the paper, right? Hey, we have pride flags. Feel free to pick one up at either. And I would assume at this point we probably don't do UU Church because that's not going to be till next Tuesday. If we just say this Saturday, the 20th, you can pick them up at either town meeting or the farmer's market.
Can't remember.
If we have them left over, we can bring them to the Unitarian Church
right
following Tuesday.
Or reserve 20 of them for that or something.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to remember for the farmer's market. I know to to get food there, you have to have pre-ordered. I don't know if you have to have
Oh,
pre-ordered
yeah.
to actually get into the market. So.
Right. Because it's pickup only.
Right. I mean, that doesn't mean that we can't ask them if they can put out a bucket of flags.
Right.
All right.
But it'd be like, if you're already picking up from the farmer's market, there will be some there.
Right.
So different messaging. Yeah.
I must have missed it, but the town council meeting is going to be live?
No.
Auditorium?
Town meeting is different than town council meeting.
The town meeting, okay, it's going to
With
be
the
live?
warrant and the whole. Yes.
Yes, it's gonna be at the gymnasium at the high school, and seats will be 6 feet apart, and everyone is being asked to wear a mask, and precautions have been made. But instead of multiple nights, it will hopefully it'll just be one Saturday. So we're starting at 9 a.m.
That could go on for 6 hours.
It could, Sherry.
Oh, I don't know if I'm that much of a glutton for punishment on a Saturday.
In terms of flags for there, does someone want to volunteer to bring some down, or do you think that's an appropriate venue?
I gotta see if we can get a babysitter or something if Tom, all right, so I don't know if I can.
I'm gonna
commit
be
to that.
there. I'm gonna be at town meeting, so I have the packet, the bundle I have, and if there's other bundles that I should like acquire from people, I can bring whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. I have one full bundle left and then like a couple loose ones. So I think the bundles are 12. I think there are 12 in a bag.
Okay. Yeah, and I will get in touch with Chi-Chi to get the rest of the ones that she has. All right. And then so just to be clear I can get the schedule of activities from Isabel in terms of what was supposed to be posted on each respective day for the rest of the month. And I think at this point, if it was speakers on the subcommittee or speakers that were not able to reach, I think just for purposes of continuity, we cancel those speakers for that day, but then we keep going with what we can keep going with. Does that sound like a workable plan?
Yeah, I think they had plans for like a theme each week. So for example, last week was supposed to be transgender. So they had the story that was read by Mr. Carter. And then there was supposed to be an interview. Now probably it's going to be a written essay from a parent of a transgender child in the school. And then I don't know what was scheduled for that Friday's Pride Pioneer thing regarding transgender.
I was yeah. So, but I haven't recorded it yet because I wasn't sure how we were going to proceed. So,
do we want to just try to I can email this parent and see if she's still ready to post something for tomorrow and sort of pick up a week behind. But then I don't know what then this week's plan was and sort of trying to keep it going. And do we just then, if we have somebody already reading the books that were planned, do we just push that into the first week of July and continue, or I don't know, or maybe we replace the Friday thing with an extra book. So
yeah, I was the final week, and I'm happy to take myself off the calendar. I will happily read a book, but the committee had asked me to do research and come up with explain marriage equality in legal terms. And that was a homework assignment. And I said, I will do it, but that's a homework assignment because I don't have a memo already written on that. And so if you need to take me off, I think I was the final Friday. I'm happy to because you have to make up a week's worth. I'm happy to take that off. I'm also, if you can get me a book to read, I'm happy to read a book because that just is a lot easier than me writing a memo. But, and I will be supportive. If you guys really want a memo, I will do a memo. But that was just, I was like, you just gave me homework and I want to just read a story because I think the stories, I read one on Facebook and it went over really well. And I know I don't think I've seen Amy read a story, but I know many of the other officers were doing it.
Oh,
So,
yeah. We were tuning into those.
yeah, they're great. Yeah, so I think you could catch up on the schedule and if it's a light lift for people like the storytelling or sharing their stories, if they've already got it, then you kind of missed a couple of days, but I feel like you can, if people have it, you can plug them in. You don't need to keep to the Monday, Wednesday,
Okay. All right.
Friday.
Yeah.
Amy,
Well,
did you have your hand up? I didn't know.
Yes, I did. It's fine if we want to have a bucket of flags out in front of the station. That's okay.
Oh, great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. All right. Sorry, Jen, were you trying to say something?
no, I guess I was just thinking like messaging wise, I mean, I don't know how many people are waiting for us because they're like, they haven't posted something, they said they would, but is there something we need to say? Like picking back up our schedule, or do we need to, I mean, it's all on Facebook, but I think it's also on our town website, but is there anything that we need to communicate?
I think a one-line light thing that you just said is perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Or just like, we're back. Continuing with our previously scheduled.
Right. Because we never actually published a full schedule of like, week 2 will be transgender and week 3 will be intersectionalism, or we never said that. We just said Monday, Wednesday, Friday we'll have different content. So we kind of clarified what was Monday, what was Wednesday, what was Friday, but we never published like a full-on agenda for each day. So I think that's fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else about that item?
One question I had about, because I think part of the plan was on Fridays to then raffle off the book from Monday. So I don't know what the methodology of that raffling was supposed to be. So that might be something we need to check back in with Isabel on. How are they going? It was supposed to be like if you comment or if you, I think, sent an email or sent a message, then your name got entered. But how do we?
Yeah,
I think we need to reiterate on our videos, like especially for the ones that have already happened, like, hey, don't forget to comment by X date. We'll be raffling off, or remind people of that. And then with each new video we post, I think that should be in the directions, because I don't think a lot of people really knew what they were. They might have liked it because it was a great little video, but I don't know that they knew they were being entered into a raffle if they commented.
Okay.
Or how do they submit their information for the raffle?
All right. Yeah, I don't know what the process was for doing that. So yeah, Isabel, I think, is going to send the schedule. She was going to send the schedule to me. So when I get that from her, I will double check in about the raffle stuff as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay.
And I just want to add that it's you guys are smaller than you were last month, and so it's okay not to stick to the schedule. And I think if we just at the end of the month you want to say, hey, comment about Pride, and we'll choose 4 people at random to get the books, I think that's fine. I think that the calendar was very what's the word? It was a great schedule, but it was very rigid. And I'm giving you guys permission to just kind of flow away. So if you post on a Tuesday and don't do the raffle, I promise nobody's going to say anything, and nobody's waiting to get their copy of the free book. It's a great idea. And I think let's give ourselves flexibility. I say this at work every day, we are in the middle of a pandemic, give ourselves, it's okay that we're running late for a phone call. It's okay that we didn't get out the Friday email till Monday. It's okay. So just think about whatever makes the most sense. I think doing them all at the same time, is fine, and just do it that way. And it's just, nobody needs to spend, this should not be an added stress to anyone. So that's just, I'm giving you guys permission to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not go crazy giving away book raffles. And Amy, I think Amy just solved all that discussion we have. I think put all the flags outside of the police station. And I think they're outside, and then you can post that and people can go there. And if, you know, I feel like they'll all be gone pretty quickly with people who want them. So.
All right.
Yep.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right. Benny, you are leading us in our next conversation.
Sorry, I was just finishing that last note.
Yep.
So I had talked to Maria about putting an item on today's agenda after the April 7th subcommittee meeting. And a bunch of people had called to apologize to me about, so the topic of my gender identity came up in that meeting, and all these people called to apologize to me about that. And it was like a little bit baffling to me, but after thinking about it, I was like, well, if anything, maybe we should just talk about this and have a moment, like a teachable moment. So Maria and I had talked about that. So I wanted to take an opportunity just to talk about like gender identity and sexuality. For the opportunity of like, I don't know, thinking, learning. So a couple things that are on my mind about it. Let's see, where to start. I think the first thing that I personally would like to say, and this is like my personal opinion, which is, you know, rooted in lots of like ways that I think about the world, but it's still my opinion, you know. My opinion is that it is not inappropriate to talk about somebody's gender identity. It is not inappropriate to talk about somebody's sexual orientation. Like, I don't think it's healthy for those to be taboo subjects, you know, because this is part of the response I was getting was like, oh my God, Benny, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry this came up. And it's like, you know, we don't think twice about saying, Benny's married, you know, it's like a part of my identity. It's a fact of my life. It's not offensive to anyone or probably very few people. But there are certain aspects of our identities that are like people have trouble talking about, you know, like it's taboo, or like we're really afraid of offending people. So, you know, if I'm describing, you know, a Black friend of mine, like, do I say she's Black? Do I say like, yeah, you know, my friend Catherine, she's, you know, she's Black, she's from Texas? Or do I not say she's Black? Like, am I not supposed to say that? You know, I'm talking about my friend Alex. So I say, oh, you know, Alex, something, he's gay. Like, if it comes up in conversation, or is that offensive? Should I not say that? So my personal opinion on this topic is that I don't think it should be taboo to mention just the fact of somebody's gender identity or somebody's sexual orientation. And I think creating spaces where we're afraid to speak is sort of not helpful. But I want to layer on top of that, like, the obvious complexity that gender identity and sexual orientation are targeted identities for people who are queer, for people who are transgender, for people who, you know what I mean, for people who aren't of the dominant identities. So anyone who's not cisgendered and anyone who's not straight, those being the dominant identities, everyone else, it is a targeted identity and is the subject of systemic oppression. And so I think that that is also important to think about. You know, there are situations or ways in which it could be problematic or unwise to discuss someone's gender identity. Say somebody is trans. Maybe they're not out. Maybe it's not safe. You know, maybe it shouldn't be your choice, you know, whether or not that is getting broadcasted to the world. It should be that person's choice. And so there are sort of complexities and nuances to this, but, you know, that was like one kind of category of stuff that I wanted to talk about, was that I personally don't feel that anyone should be apologizing to me for like the topic of my sexuality or the topic of my gender identity having come up in a conversation. I don't think that's problematic. The other thing, though, that I did want to talk about was, I think there are problematic things that happen when we make assumptions about people, right? I mean, and that's a very blanket statement that could cover all kinds of things. I will use myself as the example in this situation, because I think that's the most appropriate thing for me to do, which is, so I am married to a man. I'm a cisgendered woman married to a cisgendered man. We are in a hetero relationship. I am not straight. So I identify as queer, and I just wanted to sort of use this as an example to encourage people always to not make assumptions. Like, you don't know a person's gender identity unless you ask them. And you don't know what pronouns somebody uses unless you ask them. You don't know what somebody's sexual orientation is unless you ask them. So you can't rely on what you see. You can't rely on what somebody looks like, sounds like, dresses like. You can't rely on you can't rely on someone's behaviors, because in this case, the behavior is, I am married to a man, so I have this like hetero behavior in my life. But that is not my identity. That's like a behavior that I do in my life, you know? So my sort of overall message with this is, I think it's important for us to like exercise our brains and our hearts around curiosity and just the okay, this is going to sound like too metaphysical, but the sort of the infiniteness of possibilities. Like, people don't always fit into the categories that you assume that they do, and just always carrying that in your mind as you interact with people. So that was sort of my message for that. And yeah, I don't know if people have like questions or thoughts or reactions to that. That was sort of me talking for a while.
When I was listening to you, I was thinking about the importance of context when you talk about people's identity. You know, if when you're mentioning a friend and their name, is it the appropriate context for saying, oh, that gay person or that Black person or that Latinx person? So always think about the context, whether that piece of information is even relevant, if it means anything at all. If in the context it's relevant and it has bearing on the conversation, that's appropriate. If not, then you don't go around, like you said, making assumptions and labeling people.
Oh yeah, Sue, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the reason I wanted to participate in this meeting was that I heard people had left, and the only concrete thing I had heard about was that somebody had misidentified somebody. Somebody said, oh, is person X trans, and person X wasn't, and all of a sudden people are off this committee, the commission. I mean, I'm not sure if that's what happened, but to the extent that happened, I love what you just said, Benny. And I was just horrified. I mean, it's really insulting to make that a big deal. I mean, if I say, oh, I thought so-and-so was tall, or I thought, you know, when you're saying have it be relevant, who cares if it's relevant? It's just a fact of life. We are who we are. And right, don't make assumptions, but also what is wrong in regular conversation to say, oh, really, I thought so-and-so was Italian, she's Irish? You know, I mean, so what?
Yeah, I think that sums up how I feel about it. Although, again, I think it's important to layer on top of it the understanding of systemic oppression, because say, for example, well, in this case, it happened, right? Somebody said, or I don't know if anybody said, yeah, there was like this question. It's like, oh, I think she's straight. Or like, is she gay? No, she's not gay. She's married to a man. And so although it is that same casual kind of conversation of, oh, really? Well, I always thought she was straight. You know, there's a layer of then, so my identity in that conversation became sort of invisibilized because, you know, people had never asked me, or we hadn't happened to have had a conversation about it, you know, and so the assumptions are flying around. And so I do think it's like, I don't think it should be taboo. I think it's like a socially acceptable thing to talk about gender identity, to talk about sexual orientation. And, you know, be aware as you're doing that, that if your assumptions are leaking out in those casual conversations, it can cause some problems.
But to pretend it's not there, it's sort of like the old thing of, oh, I don't even think of you as Black. Oh, come on. You know, I'm Black or I'm white. Yes, you do. And, you know, oh, I don't even think about whether people are gay or straight. Yes, you do. I do. All of the above, you know, I mean, and I think the more we're on tenterhooks about it and the more we reinforce that tenterhook approach, the more dangerous it is. Anyway, I applaud what you said, Benny. And I'm really sad about what happened here, if that's really what happened here. But maybe I should I'll ask another time. Maria, I'll figure out a way to get in touch with you and find out what happened. But.
Yeah, there is a context to that conversation. So.
Okay, so
I'll leave it to someone else to, yeah, I wasn't there, but I've been told the context and.
But that there were repercussions.
And I can see, yeah, and I think within the
horrifies me.
context, other than some of maybe offhand comments, it wasn't an inappropriate conversation. They were trying to determine who could be a speaker on Pride Day, on a certain aspect of Pride Day.
So
that's what it was. That's what it started as.
So G will ask this person, oh, really, they're not gay? Okay, so who would be appropriate? I mean, so what?
Yeah, exactly. I think this is how I feel about it, is I think it was a perfectly appropriate conversation. It's not, yeah. But anyway, that's just specifically about that one conversation, you know, but so I wanted to sort of generalize it a little bit.
So Benny,
I also want to emphasize, I'm not diminishing what happens to people based on sexual orientation. I mean, I have been through that myself. I've dealt with custody issues. I've dealt with employment issues. I totally get that it could be a very big deal. I am not saying, gee, it's been a non-issue for me, so it should be a non-issue for everybody. That's not at all the point. The point is how we get to an equitable world is we're honest about who we all are and what we see and what we think. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mary.
No, so I'm gonna echo what you said, and Benny, thank you for that framing and for that sharing. I think something that just becomes clearer as we all work on these issues is that there's uncomfortable conversations, and I think people feel uncomfortable whether the person receiving it doesn't, and I think our job as the Human Rights Commission and as, you know, me as liaison and you guys on it is to help people have those awkward, uncomfortable, I'm not even like just uncomfortableness, and grow with it. And like, this is how we make progress. And this is how we grow, is that uncomfortableness. Right. And I'm just going to make a suggestion, cause I do it in every other meeting that I sit on, but when we introduce ourselves, we use our pronouns, and then somebody doesn't have to ask you. And actually, you know, maybe when you can rename yourself, like for all my other meetings, you know, I go around and I say, I'm Mireen, she, her, hers. And I think as we do that, then it makes people comfortable. And then the whole, you know, we can get more people to do it. And like, I don't like the word normalize it, but also just like take the uncomfortableness out of it. And so I think that's something like, we're not going to get rid of the uncomfortableness, but I think as human rights commissioners and people invested in this world, like in this work, we have to have that uncomfortableness to grow and to change and to make progress. And so that's just my suggestion. Maybe that's like a small thing, but I feel like, you know, if the Human Rights Commission, every single meeting, every time someone speaks, they introduce themselves with their pronouns, like, not everyone is as comfortable as Benny. Not everyone is an elected like me that is used to, you know, answering where are your parents from, you know, have an accent, you know, questioning identity. I mean, it happens to everyone. But yeah, so that's my thought. Yeah. And Benny beat me to it, but that's, I mean, every single meeting that I go to, you know, we now kind of do pronouns just to take away that uncomfortable conversation.
That still wouldn't have told somebody whether Benny was trans.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't, but I think it helps having
It
those
acknowledges it. Yeah.
uncomfortableness, and then takes away of the, hushed room conversations.
I see.
It takes away the stigma a little bit of like, this is a thing that we can all talk about and we should all talk about kind of all the time. Also, you guys will often see me wearing these. You can't see it. This is she, her. I wear these stickers around a lot. Anyway, so I'm all about having that just be a normal part of the pronouns thing, at least, just being a normal part of conversation. When I introduce myself to people, my name is Benny. I go by she, her. And I love the idea of having that become a sort of a cultural norm in our, at the HRC or at HRC events, if we have sort of smaller, like more intimate events, like if there's a book group or, smaller things, not like a huge event, but anyway.
Yeah. I know my company, we all put it in our email. Well, not all of us, but most of us have changed our email signatures to add that.
I think that's a good practice going forward, and thank you to those of you that have already done it on their Zoom IDs. But yeah, thank you for talking about this, Benny, and I think this is the start of some really good soul searching and uncomfortable but important conversations. So thank you for getting the ball rolling. I mean,
That's
a lot of
even,
people have started these conversations before, but thank you for continuing it. Yeah. Sherry, go ahead.
that was even one of the ideas on our list, uncomfortable conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Okay, it's 8 o'clock, so I'll try to move things along because mindful of everybody's time. In terms of the vacant position, so we've already answered some of this. Benny's going to reach out in terms of the student, see where things stand with the student positions. Oh, sorry, Sue, go ahead.
I'm just going to sign off. I don't mean to be rude, but it's 8 and I.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was nice joining your meeting. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye, Sue.
Yeah. And then I'm going to reach out to the Clergy Association about the clergy position. And then we have 3 school committee positions to fill and 1 town council position to fill. So let me see. Anna's already, both Ann and Amy received my letter last week notifying them about the positions, but I can follow up with both of them to see if they're able to post the positions at their next meetings. I know that town council meets a week from Monday, if I'm not mistaken, Marion. And then I can double check when I know school committee just met last week as well. So hopefully we can get those positions filled. Are there people that are able to help with the reviewing of applications once we get them in?
I think Amy and I are still the subcommittee that we had to do for new members. So I would still.
With like 5 new members, that's kind of a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
If you need, I'm happy to help. Can you say again, Maria, really quick? So it's how many? 2 school committee and 2 town appointees?
3.
3 school committee and 1 town council plus clergy and students. So 5 positions.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
And yeah, Rich's was the one that's been,
does that include Rich?
Yeah.
That includes Rich. Yep.
So I have a question because I have no idea how this works.
Mm-hmm.
Does the town clerk collect all the applications, then all of them are sent to both the school committee and the town council, and they each get a chance to decide? How does that work? The choosing. I know I got I believe I was chosen by the town council, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, you were.
Okay.
Because you applied through the town. So as far as I know, it's 2 separate application processes. So, I mean, I suppose one person could apply to be appointed by the school committee and send an application to the town and then be in both pools. I mean, I don't know how you would, but.
Do they consistently and send these notices out widely to the community? I mean, I think I got my notification only because I had been attending HRC meetings and put myself on a mailing list. But I'm wondering about other people in town, like those those people that were at our meeting last week, some of them might make great candidates, but how are they going to learn about this?
Right. Well, one thing that I think we could do, I mean, there was a fantastic brainstorming session about reaching out just generally about how to, this was in the conversation about anti-racism actions, and how we can spread the word about that, but we can also use that list to spread the word about these open positions that will hopefully generate a really outstanding pool of applicants. And people that are really excited to be part of our mission. And I mean, one of the things that I thought was a great suggestion is the Gas and Light Department, the monthly, the newsletter that they put out is including a notification around that. So I think as far and wide as we can spread the word, I think that's only going to serve us.
But I'm getting the impression that the word has to be spread by the school committee or the town council. We can do that too?
Once they post it, we tended to cross post it, but I mean, that was just on our Facebook page. And we certainly put it in the paper. Well, the town puts it in the paper. I think the bigger question mark for me is how the school committee advertises it. And I think they've tended to send an email to the school distribution list. So like all the parents, but I don't know if that's the only way that they advertise theirs.
I would have never gotten that notice. I'm not
right. You wouldn't have. Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily a requirement that you had children, but I think they were kind of gearing it towards individuals who had children in the school district, in the school system, Wakefield.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas the town council appointed ones are more of the general, general community.
But I do think that we're going to have to beef up that announcement as best we can after it's officially announced by the two deciding bodies.
And are we allowed, I mean, I know the letter was posted on our Facebook page, but are we allowed to say, we will have openings, stay tuned, or, here's the process once they post it? Well, are we allowed to proactively sort of announce that, or should we be waiting for both separate groups to publish their own announcements and then just reiterate those?
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, I mean, I wouldn't post anything tomorrow just because the groups aren't meeting until they don't meet for another week and a half anyway. But maybe sometime around those meetings saying that positions will be posted soon for the Human Rights Commission, and we encourage anyone that's interested to reach out to either one of these bodies to find out about the application process.
Right. Because I think that was another question that we had, right? The town council application process, they've streamlined theirs across all the different bodies. There's like a form you fill out now with what you're interested in and why, and then you submit your resume. But I'm still unclear because I've never helped fill a school committee seat as a part of our subcommittee. How are they collecting their applicants? Do they use the same form, or is it a whole different? Are they just asking you to send in a letter of why you want to do it? Do they select, do they ask for resumes too, or what's their process?
Yeah.
Maria, I just checked. I think we have a town council meeting on Monday.
Oh, this coming. Oh, you.
Yeah, because the schedule got because of town meeting, but we have a meeting on the 22nd.
Oh, that's
so
right.
On the 22nd, we will likely approve the publication of it, and so I think as soon I wouldn't do it before both bodies vote on it, because technically you can't. But then once it's posted for 2 weeks. Right. With a due date of when applications are back. So then I would just amplify, and we can talk to Jen McDonald to get it on the town Facebook and just amplify it that way. Sherry usually puts it in the paper as well. And then, the best recruitment really happens from members of their own. So if there's a way for you guys to email people who have come to your events or come to your meetings, I think that's the best way to really recruit.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm assuming Rich usually did the distribute, our email list. I don't know anything about how to access that or manage it or send an email through our system.
Yeah, I don't, I think those emails were pretty few and far between, because not for lack of interest, but I think the process of emailing people from the town email system is, I think it's done on a very limited basis. So I don't, yeah, I can check and see what the possibility is of that.
So now the decisions are made by the school committee and the town council, and yet people from this body review applications. How does that work? I mean, I'm a new commissioner. I don't have any information
I
about
can speak
anything.
to that.
Okay, thank you, Amy.
So when we initially formed, we were able to kind of outline our own policies and procedures. And initially when we were filling seats, we would ourselves post the position. Applications and letters of interest were submitted directly to us. And then we outlined it that, you know, for every, you know, one seat, we would submit the top 3 applicants. So I remember one time we had 11 applicants for like maybe 2 seats. So we submitted, I think, the top 6 to the town council. Since that, the first time that the subcommission had reviewed applications, the town council had reviewed it and they were like, oh, you know, this is a town commission. It really needs to be in line with all other commissions, even though we were allowed to have our own policies and procedures. So after that, you know, same as any other commission, the town posted it, the town collects all of the resumes. We still interview, you know, it's just a standard 2 questions, as you know, we still do that with all of the applicants. And then we still kind of say like, all the town council sees all the applications. So even if 15 people apply, they're going to see everybody. They can technically choose whoever they want, but we still kind of say like, oh, we interviewed everyone. We really like these top 3, and they can select whoever they want. But that's how the process has been since they said, you know, this commission really needs to be in line with all of the other boards and commissions with how we select and recruit applicants. So.
Okay. I have to tell you, my battery is running low now and I'm not plugged in. Are we going to go on for much longer before I lose all power?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the town council process is very clear to me. It's the school committee process that's unclear.
Yeah.
And also given the delay that we've seen.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I can check in with both of those about posting. All right.
Do we need to request to put it on their agenda, or is that just something if you inquire, it'll go on?
I'm hoping they'll add it to their agendas. Yeah. Okay. I know that I don't have it on the agenda in terms of matters not anticipated. I think the only thing that I had, Sherry, I know that you had asked about meeting at 6:30. If there was a possibility if we could meet later. I didn't know if people had strong opinions one way or another. I mean, I don't think we could push it past 7:30, but I'm happy to, you know, if everyone is collectively thinking, why are we meeting as early as 6:30? I'm totally willing to have a conversation about a somewhat later meeting time.
I was even a half hour, 7 o'clock would make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons we had to meet earlier was because WCHE, right, didn't it close? Or they were like waiting for us, but now we are also talked about, well, now we're on Zoom, but once we go back to meeting in person, we talked about the last meeting moving to town hall. So I don't know if there's as much of a restriction on our end time, given that our meetings tend to last 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Right. Okay. Does anyone have any any strong opinions against bumping it up to 7 o'clock? Okay, so
Lets me have dinner first, so.
That's right.
so yeah, I don't know if this is something we need to vote on. So just to be on the safe side, is there a motion to move our meeting times to 7 o'clock?
Yes, let's move our meetings to 7 o'clock, please. A motion to move our meetings to 7 o'clock.
Is there a second?
No second.
That's seconded.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Okay. All right. Benny.
Hold on. Yes.
Okay. Jen.
Yes.
All right. Amy.
Aye.
Sherry.
Yes.
I will say yes myself. So we'll meet at 7 going forward.
So I'm wondering if that needs to, if we need to communicate that to both the school committee and the town council when they advertise the positions. I think that right now that it says like, you know, and on our website, we probably need to communicate that to Jen McDonald because it says, probably even on our Facebook page, you know, it says that we meet, you know, the third Tuesday at 6:30 at WCAT. So we'll probably need to change those listings.
Okay. Yes, I can do that.
And I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to go off because literally I have no battery left. I'm sorry. I'll
That's
plug
all right.
in next time.
Okay. Thanks, Sherry.
Goodbye, everyone.
Did anybody have anything else?
I think the only, I have one thing. So we have, after our International Women's Day event, we have the big banner that we had with all everyone's action items, which is kind of rolled up in my garage. So now that Town Hall has started to reopen, I wasn't sure if we should be reaching out to them and asking. They had committed to that we could put that up in Town Hall, and then, you know, everything shut down. So I thought it was always the plan to like put it back up after they reopen, but I wasn't sure if this is, you know, too far gone at this point, given that it was in March, or if we should still pursue that. And I can certainly reach out if we decide to. I just wanted to check with the group first.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it was 3 months ago, but similar to what we were talking about in terms of in terms of February, let's have conversations about anti-racism beyond the month of February.
Yeah.
I think we should also be having conversations about sexism outside and women's empowerment outside of the month of March. So given that, I don't think there's anything, I think we should ask.
Okay. So I can have that as my to-do, Benny, is reach back out to Sherry and Steve Mayo and ask if they still were willing to have us bring it up, and then I can coordinate to bring it over if they say so. And I don't know, I mean, there was never quite an end plan, right? that I had in mind of, were they going to have it up for a week? Were they going to have it up for a month? And what do we do with it after that if it just gets recycled at that point? So, you know, I don't know that we have to decide everything right now, but I don't really have a plan for what to do with it after they decide to take it down.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Did anybody have anything else?
I think I just mentioned Juneteenth earlier. So, I mean, I can probably try to research a good post, or if Marion mentioned the MFA, I think you mentioned, or Museum of History. I don't remember what museum.
Okay.
You know, if they have something just to elevate it, you know, I don't think we need to make more than 1 or 2 posts about it, but I would like to just
Recognize
have our
it.
Facebook page say, you know, Juneteenth is this Friday, or, you know, either like one tomorrow or Thursday saying it's Friday, and then on Friday say today is the day. So I think stuff like make a plan for it would be like earlier, and then maybe a second one, or just a single one. I don't know. That's all.
That sounds good. All right. I think that's everything. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Or actually, sorry. Benny, do you mind reviewing the action list?
Yes, this is what I have for the action list. Sherry will contact the Wakefield Chamber of Commerce and the North Shore Chamber of Commerce and do other research in order to compile a list of Black-owned businesses in our area. Benny will check with Principal McLeod and Doug Lyons about where they're at in the process of appointing a student seat. Maureen will bring up the Wakefield 201 idea in Town Council. Sherry will reach out to the library and see if they're planning any anti-racism programming and if they want to coordinate with us. Sherry will reach out to the chamber to see if they're planning any anti-racism programming and if they would like to coordinate with us. Maria will reach out to Doug Lyons about anti-racism curriculum or events that the school might be planning and if they want to coordinate with us. Maria will reach out to the Clergy Association about any anti-racism programming that they are planning and if they want to coordinate with us. And Maria will reach out to the Clergy Association about our vacancy for the clergy position. Jen will reach out to the school committee about anti-racism. Wait, apparently I wrote that down for 2 different people. Did I? Okay.
So I think Maria's doing Doug, and I'm doing school committee.
Okay, so Jen will reach out to
Doug and Metco.
about anti-racism programming or policies they're talking about and whether they would like to coordinate with us. Benny will distribute flags at town meeting, although I don't know, are we just going to put them at the public safety building? Are we doing both?
Do we have a bucket to put them in? You know, we said like put out a bucket of flags, but who's got the bucket?
I own a bucket. It's like not very clean. Got some like old cement in it. Might not be good.
I don't have a bucket.
I have some like sand pails, but I think they're too short and they would like tip over.
Okay.
I do. I think I have another bucket that's not dirty. I think I have a random like Demula's bucket. So should I can bring that stuff over. Well, okay. I don't have all the stuff though. I have one bundle of flags. So
I'll get in touch with Chi-Chi, and once I have the flags, then I'll get in touch with you.
okay.
All right.
That sounds good.
Okay.
That is good because the next one on the list is Maria will get the remaining flags from Chi-Chi. And then I'll put,
Maria, if you just want to direct Chi-Chi to me, I can go to take a step away from you. I can just go pick them up from her and bring them to the station, and I can pick up the bucket from you, Benny.
okay.
And bring it here. If you guys are fine with that.
All right. That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. So Maria will connect Amy with Chi-Chi to get the flags put at the public safety building.
So then do we need to have somebody say that they're going to make an announcement or put it in the paper that the flags are there? Do we need another action item for that? I mean, I can take an action to post it on our Facebook page, but I think if we want it to be advertised beyond that.
Yeah, just like a little blurb in the paper that says like whatever.
Maybe with a picture. I mean, I took a picture of the flags in front of my house, but maybe we could submit.
Yeah. See if they'll print it in color. Otherwise, it will be an uneventful picture. I'm fine to publish just a little thing, you know, like not an article, but just like flags will be available at blah, 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 whatever. Do you have a good picture, Jen?
I don't know. I mean, I could take another one, but I just have a picture of it like hanging from in front of my house.
I have one in front of my house. I could try to take a picture of it. It's, you know, stuck into the ground, which means it's very low.
Yeah. You know what? I think I have, well, I have some pictures that I took when I put some out in front of the Emmanuel Episcopal Church in like their little garden buckets, but I don't know that we'd want to post that to point people like to the public safety building.
Well, in any event, I will write a blurb up for the item.
See if I can text you a picture if I have one, and you can decide if you like that or your own.
Yeah.
How about that? Okay.
So I'm going to then take out the one that says that I will distribute flags at town meeting. Is that right? Are we going to put them all at the public safety building?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Maria will get the schedule from Isabel about the Pride events and double check about how they were doing the storybook raffles. Maria will check in with the school committee and town council about posting the openings and changing the meeting time. Jen will contact the town hall about the International Women's Day Action Plan banner, and Jen will research some posts to elevate for Juneteenth.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay. And a second. We have a second. Okay. I'm going to second that. All right. So Benny.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize my mic was still on. Yes.
That's fine.
Aye.
Aye.
Jen,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
and I for me. So I think that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. I know this is a long meeting.
Thank
Thank you.
You guys are awesome. Thank you for all that you do.
All right.
I'll see you around, maybe at town meeting.
Right.
you. Fun times.
Sounds good. Have a good night,
Bye.
everybody.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.